In the quiet but elite neighborhood of Lekki Phase 1, whispers traveled faster than the wind. They spoke of the billionaire's new wife, the woman who, in less than a year, had sent 7 housemaids packing. Each one left her grand marble mansion either in tears or in shame, never to be seen in the area again. Her name was Amara Afani, the wife of one of Nigeria's most powerful men, Chief Daniel Afani. To the outside world, she was stunning, a beauty wrapped in designer gowns, with a smile perfect for magazine covers. But to those who worked under her roof, she was something else entirely: cold, unpredictable, dangerous. Rumors had it that she had a list, an actual handwritten list of every wrong a maid ever committed in her service. And when that list was full, the maid's days in the mansion were numbered. It was said that no maid ever lasted more than 2 months, until the day Chidinma Okafor walked into that mansion. The morning Chidinma arrived, the mansion's gates creaked open like the jaws of a beast about to swallow her whole. She stood outside in a faded floral dress, clutching a small bag that contained all her possessions, 2 wrappers, a pair of slippers, and a carefully folded letter of recommendation from her pastor. The security guard, Musa, sized her up. He had seen them all come and go, the hopeful ones, the desperate ones, the naive ones. He almost pitied her. "Are you ready?" he asked, his tone half warning, half curiosity. "Yes, sir," Chidinma replied, forcing a small smile. He chuckled under his breath. "Let's see how long you last." The main doors opened to reveal Amara herself. She was dressed in a silk robe the color of blood, her hair swept into a flawless bun. Even without makeup, her beauty was arresting, but her eyes were like glass, beautiful, cold, and unblinking. "You're the new one?" she asked, her voice smooth but laced with an undertone of dominance. "Yes, ma. My name is Chidinma." Amara's gaze traveled from Chidinma's head to her worn shoes, and back up. We'll see." From that moment, the house seemed to study Chidinma as much as she studied it. Every corner held silent judgment: the grand staircase, the crystal chandeliers, the walls lined with imported paintings. It was a place where even a footstep echoed like an intrusion. That evening, Amara laid out the rules. They weren't written down, but they were etched into her sharp, deliberate voice. No speaking unless spoken to. No entering the master bedroom unless summoned. No touching anything that doesn't belong to you. No mistakes, not even once. She didn't smile once while speaking. "Do you understand?" she asked. "Yes, ma," Chidinma replied. But Chidinma knew from the trembling hands of the cook, the way the driver kept his eyes low, and the quick, nervous glances of the gardener, that these rules were only the surface. There was more. Something no one dared say out loud. 3 days into her work, Chidinma was cleaning the sitting room when she accidentally knocked over a small porcelain figurine, a delicate swan with gold-tipped wings. Her heart stopped. She caught it mid-fall, her fingers trembling as she placed it back exactly where it had been. From the corner of the room, she heard a soft, slow clap. It was Amara. "That," Amara said, walking forward, "was my mother's favorite piece. She used to say the swan represents grace." "Tell me, Chidinma, do you think you have grace?" Chidinma swallowed. I try to, ma." Amara tilted her head, studying her as though she were a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Then, without warning, she smiled, not warmly, but like a cat that had found a mouse. "We'll see." One night, after the mansion had gone quiet, Chidinma found herself in the kitchen warming leftover soup. Musa, the security guard, walked in. "You're still here," he said, almost in disbelief. "It's just been a week," she replied. He leaned closer. "Do you know what happened to the others?" Chidinma shook her head. "They left. Some in the middle of the night. Some after incidents. Madame Amara doesn't shout much. She doesn't beat. She breaks people. Makes you doubt yourself until you're begging to leave." Chidinma's stomach tightened. "Why?" Musa's eyes flicked toward the door, as though Amara might appear at any second. Maybe she enjoys it. Maybe she doesn't trust anyone. Or maybe she's testing for something no one has passed. 2 weeks later, Chief Daniel returned from a business trip. His arrival turned the house into a whirlwind of activity. The staff worked like ants, polishing floors, arranging flowers, ironing tablecloths. That night, there was a dinner to celebrate his birthday. Important guests filled the dining hall: ministers, CEOs, politicians' wives. Amara wore a deep emerald dress that shimmered under the chandelier. She commanded the room effortlessly, smiling and laughing in public, her hands resting lightly on Daniel's arm. But when Chidinma brought in the dessert tray, Amara's smile vanished. She looked at the way Chidinma carried the silver platter, one hand slightly tilted, and her lips tightened. Careful, she whispered as Chidinma passed her. This is where some of them failed. Chidinma studied her grip, every step feeling like a test she couldn't afford to fail. When she set the tray down, Amara gave her a look, not approval, but interest. That night, after the guests had left, Amara called Chidinma into her study. You've lasted longer than most, she said, swirling wine in a crystal glass. Do you know why? Chidinma stayed silent. It's because you listen. You watch. You think before you speak. That is rare. There was a pause. But be careful, Amara added, her voice dropping. This house, it eats the weak. And it doesn't matter how good you are, if you displease me once, you're gone. Her words lingered like a shadow. By the end of the 3rd week, Chidinma began to notice strange patterns. Amara would set traps, moving items slightly out of place, leaving instructions that contradicted earlier ones, asking for impossible tasks on short deadlines. One afternoon, Amara handed Chidinma a silk scarf and said, "Hand wash this. It must be dry and ready in 1 hour." It was the rainy season. Chidinma used every trick she knew, squeezing out water, placing it near the generator's warmth, and returned with the scarf just in time. Amara took it, inspected it, then dropped it on the floor. You folded it wrong, she said softly. Something in Chidinma's chest tightened. This was what Musa meant, the subtle, deliberate breaking. But Chidinma didn't break. Instead of folding inward, Chidinma did something no one else had done. She began to study Amara as much as Amara studied her. She noticed the moments Amara grew quiet, when Daniel didn't call, when her friends cancelled plans, when certain songs played on the radio. She noticed that behind Amara's cruelty, there was something else: loneliness. One night, Chidinma heard muffled sobs from the master bedroom. She stood outside, torn between duty and caution, before quietly walking away. She said nothing to anyone. But Amara knew she had heard. And for the first time, her gaze toward Chidinma the next morning wasn't purely cold. It was curious. The next Sunday, Amara called Chidinma into the garden, where the air smelled of jasmine and the fountain trickled softly. I don't know why you're still here, Amara said, looking at her like she was a riddle. But if you plan to stay, you should know one thing: in this house, surviving me is not the same as winning me over. And with that, she walked away, leaving Chidinma standing there, the words looping in her mind. For the first time since she arrived, Chidinma realized she wasn't just trying to keep her job, she was playing a game she didn't yet understand. The days that followed felt heavier, as though the mansion itself was holding its breath. Chidinma began to feel eyes on her even when she was alone. One afternoon, while cleaning the glass shelves in the living room, she noticed a photo frame tucked behind a vase, one she had never seen before. It was a wedding picture of Amara and Chief Daniel, but something about it was off. Amara's smile looked forced, her hand barely touching Daniel's arm. The background wasn't decorated like a grand society wedding, it was a small registry office. Before Chidinma could study it further, Amara's voice cut through the silence. Put that down. Chidinma turned, startled. Amara stood in the doorway, her face unreadable. That picture is not for display, Amara said flatly, walking over and taking it from her. Some memories are better kept hidden. Her tone left no room for questions. That night, Chidinma brought Amara her evening tea. As she set it down, Amara said without looking up, "Do you know why I keep going through Maids?" Chidinma hesitated. "No, Ma. They all make the same mistake, thinking they understand me. They try to fix me, pity me, or worse, judge me. I have no use for such people." She sipped her tea and continued, "You're different. You keep your mouth shut. But I wonder, is it because you're smart, or because you're scared?" Chidinma's heart thudded. "Maybe both, Ma." For a fleeting moment, Amara's lips curved into something resembling a genuine smile. But it was gone almost instantly. 2 days later, an unannounced guest arrived, a woman in her late 40s, wearing expensive ankara and gold bangles that clinked when she moved. Her name was Madame Beezy, and she greeted Amara with an embrace that looked warm but felt cold in the air. They sat in the lounge, sipping wine, and Chidinma served them snacks. "So," Madame Beezy said, glancing at Chidinma, "is this the new one? She looks quiet." "She's lasted longer than the others," Amara replied, her eyes still fixed on her guest. "But that can change." They both laughed lightly, but there was a strange tension in the room. Later, Chidinma overheard their conversation while passing the hallway. "You know Daniel married you because it was convenient, right? A man like him doesn't." "Stop," Amara snapped. "I don't want to hear it." Chidinma moved away quickly, pretending she had heard nothing. But the words hung in her mind like smoke. That night, Chidinma found Amara sitting alone in the darkened garden. The moonlight softened her usually sharp features. "Do you miss home, Chidinma?" Amara asked suddenly. "Yes, Ma. Sometimes." "Then why stay?" Chidinma took a breath. "Because leaving without trying my best would feel like failing myself." Amara studied her for a long time, then said quietly, "You're braver than you look." It wasn't praise, not entirely, but it was the first time Amara had spoken without an edge in her voice. That weekend, a heavy storm hit Lagos. Power flickered, and the mansion felt like a shadow of itself. Daniel was away on another trip. Late at night, a loud crash came from the study. Chidinma ran to find a broken vase on the floor and Amara standing there, breathing hard, her hands clenched. "Are you okay, Ma?" Chidinma asked carefully. Amara's voice trembled, but not with anger. "Sometimes, things break before you even touch them." She turned away, leaving Chidinma standing in the dim light, wondering if Amara had just revealed more about herself than she intended. The storm passed, but something in the mansion had shifted. Amara became quieter, her sharp remarks less frequent. She watched Chidinma closely, not in suspicion, but as though weighing an unspoken question. 3 days later, while dusting the library shelves, Chidinma found a small, leather-bound journal wedged between 2 old novels. She hesitated, then opened it just enough to read a single line. "When you've been betrayed once, you spend your life testing everyone." Before she could turn the page, Amara's voice came from behind. "You shouldn't be touching that." Chidinma turned quickly. "I'm sorry, Ma. I didn't mean." Amara held up her hand. "It's fine. You've seen it now." That evening, Amara called her to the sitting room. "Do you know why I am the way I am?" she asked, her tone low, almost fragile. Chidinma shook her head. "I grew up with nothing," Amara began. "Then I met Daniel, a man with everything. I thought I'd found safety. But a year into our marriage, I found out my own cousin had been sharing his bed." Her voice wavered for the first time. "They both lied to my face for months. Do you know what it does to a person? It makes you believe betrayal is always just around the corner. That the people you let close will always hurt you." Chidinma's chest ached. She understood now, Amara wasn't just cruel, she was guarding herself in the only way she knew how, by pushing people away before they could reach her. The next week, Daniel returned unexpectedly. Dinner was tense, Daniel barely spoke to Amara, focusing instead on phone calls and messages. After he left the table, Amara sat in silence, her hand resting on her wineglass. Then, softly, she asked, "Why haven't you left, Chidinma?" Everyone else did. Chidinma met her eyes. "Because I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to work. And maybe, to see if I can make this place feel less empty." For the first time since she arrived, Amara's glass-like eyes softened into something human. "You're either very foolish," Amara murmured, "or very strong." Weeks turned into months, and Chidinma remained. She learned how to move around the house without triggering Amara's silent traps, but more than that, she learned when to step forward instead of away. When Amara's friends cancelled on her, Chidinma brewed her favorite tea without being asked. When Daniel returned from trips without a word of affection, Chidinma quietly arranged fresh flowers in Amara's sitting room. She didn't offer pity, only presence. One evening, Amara handed her a sealed envelope. "This was for when you eventually left," she said. "It's a reference letter. But I think I won't need it anymore. Not yet." Months later, Musa shook his head in disbelief. You lasted," he told Chidinma. Chidinma smiled faintly. "I didn't survive by avoiding her. I survived by seeing her. Because in the end, the impossible thing wasn't just lasting longer than any maid before her. The impossible thing was getting Amara to let someone stay, without fear." Sometimes, people hide their wounds behind sharp edges, daring the world to cut itself and leave them alone. Most will walk away, thinking survival means distance. But real strength is in standing close enough to understand, without getting swallowed by the pain. And in that mansion in Lekki, it wasn't money or status that changed anything. It was the smallest, quietest act, choosing to see the person behind the cruelty.